So far, we've talked about a lot of tools and techniques that will help you be more physically active. So today, we're going to try to put that all together and see how those can work together and kind of see the procedure of how to do this going forward. And so before we've taken each piece separately, today we're going to see it all together. So I welcome you to the classroom. Let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is identify our goals. I have this sheet is in the goal module. So you can see we can set a long-term goal. You can see that I have a goal that I'm starting to work on, or I'm thinking about starting it this summer, but I'm actually going to start hitting it by next summer, July of 2023. I also then give myself the reason I'm doing this goal. So we can see the physical activity guidelines. It's important for my health. And then I've identified 3 short-term goals. So these are things I'm going to do this month that help build up to this long-term goal up above. And so each of these put together don't hit the guidelines quite yet, but what I'm trying to do is establish that routine initially and then build up to this long-term goal. And again, we can see that then you can put the rationale of why this helps you accomplish your goal. So let's make sure that these goals actually lead into this long-term goal. And then we go through and we make sure that these goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timed. The time's probably the easiest because it forces you to put a time frame, and so we're good to go. And so you need to pick goals that are important to you. Usually a long-term goal is an objective goal, but it can be a process goal if that's really important to you. Again, we got to make sure that it's a relevant goal. Then what we need to do, now that we have our goals, is to go through and make a plan. And so I don't want to walk through this directly, but what I did was I numbered each section as 1, 2, 3 to match up with those short-term goals 1, 2, 3. So then we need to put the what we're doing, where we're doing it, the when, the how, and then a little bit more detail about how much time. And with the time, don't forget to include like extra time. So on here I have like 15 minutes on a usual day, but 25 on those colder days get bundled up. Or if you're doing biking, don't forget about the maintenance time. And then also we need to say what special equipment you need, and don't forget to include things that, like you might have a bike, but you need to really inflate the tires, or you might need to replace the chain, whatever. Don't forget to think about that in any sort of equipment you need to acquire. Make sure you have a plan for poor weather. Again, don't let winter sneak up on you. We know it's coming, so let's make a plan for it. And then planning for those obstacles, like really putting critical thought into what obstacles might stop us from reaching those goals, particularly those, we're focusing on those short-term goals right now. And then coming up with ideas to overcome those obstacles. And some ideas might include habits and if-then statements. And so I just jotted them down on the back of the sheet. I don't have a formal sheet printed out here. But then we can use our after I will statements with a reward to help establish those habits. And we can also use if-then statements to help get around some of those barriers. So even thinking of things like coming home late, what are you going to do? If you lack motivation, what are you going to do? Having those plans laid out. And it's helpful to have these in a place that will remind you that of your plan. And so like if you're working late, where am I going to see this if-then plan? Probably by the door. You might have it ingrained in you and remember it, but at least starting out, we want it somewhere really visible. Once we get going, the other thing we want handy is a daily goal tracker. And so all those things that we said we're going to do every day, we want to track when we're doing them. And so we can keep track of, I had a walking goal for every day. I had a bike that I was trying to do on weekends. I still track them on here, but that's why it looks a little funny. It looks like I miss most days, but really just trying to hit those weekends. And so this is what you complete as you go throughout the month. And then what we want to do is when we get to the end of that month, with the end of that goal frame period, we want to pull out our evaluation of goals. And we want to complete one of these for each goal. Again, we can just jot notes down, or you can just print out this worksheet directly. Both work well. You can see that I have one goal evaluated here. I have my walking goal. I have what I actually achieved, and so I said every day, but I actually got 24 out of 31 days. Did I achieve my goal? I was very particular and said no, because I want to see this 31 out of 31. But I did make a note that overall this is still pretty good. Again, noting what we felt like went well, what could have gone better, and adjustments we'll make. So really putting thought into these of what went well and what didn't, and how you want to go forward. And then another thing is I have the SMART goals listed down here. So we already checked this off when we made the goal, but sometimes what we realize is as we're going, it really wasn't a SMART goal. Either wasn't attainable, we really didn't care about it as much as we thought we did, or it wasn't as measurable. When we get to the evaluation, we're like, well, what the heck? I don't know. And so then we can come down here and say, okay, it wasn't this. What do I need to do better? So then once you have this done, then we need to make a decision. And that's going to be the critical part going forward. You need to make a decision on what you want to do about your goals and plans. And so say for this walking goal, I feel pretty good that I had 24 out of my 31 days. So I feel pretty confident that my plan is working pretty well, especially because I noted that towards the end of the month, I was doing pretty well. So maybe I want to come back on this goal and say, I'm going to up this to 15 minutes. And the reason I'm upping it is because that will bring me closer to this long-term goal, and that seems like a pretty reasonable increase. Maybe I don't feel like I have the capacity to increase this bike yet. Maybe on the evaluation, I'm either missing frequently, or I felt like I just barely got it and I'm not ready to increase. That's fine, we can leave that alone. Then we can also look, though, if we said something wasn't working well and it had to do with our plan, we can make those plans. And so maybe we didn't have an adequate plan for the obstacle, or maybe there was an obstacle we didn't anticipate. Maybe we have some sort of childcare responsibilities. We didn't think we'd be super busy in the afternoon, but we really are. Whatever that is, we can rewrite those ideas to overcome those obstacles. Particularly after you've had a couple weeks of trying to go for a goal, we can write much better if-thens goals, or if-thens plans. And again, we want to kind of check in on these habits and make sure that they're becoming more automatic and we don't have to think about them as much. And you can be as creative as you want with these habits. They can be really small things that just make it easier to accomplish your goal. They could be, if you're trying to hit strength guidelines, you can use habits to do exercises throughout the day. We want like 2 to 3 habits. After that, it's just a lot of habits to be focusing on. So maybe we want to try to get 2 habits really established and then add 2 more. Whatever that is, that leads to your long-term goal, the better. So hopefully this was helpful to see how all these sheets come together. This does take a lot of time, at least in my opinion. That's why I set them about 1 month apart. Some people like checking out their goals every 2 weeks. I find the month is a pretty good length of time. And then if you're setting aside about an hour at the end of that month just to go through this, that should be good. So if you have about an hour to say, did I hit this goal? Did I not? What am I do next month? That's good. That's a huge commitment. That'll keep you going. Sometimes it'll only be 30 minutes, but I would just plan for an hour because maybe you want to get really creative. Maybe you want to really alter the plans because things aren't going well. Whatever. Give yourself that time. Hopefully this was helpful. I know we have 1 module left in this program to kind of wrap things up, but hopefully this will help you go forward and use these tools and techniques and regularly implement them to be more physically active. So I'll see you next time.